For American wine regions and grapes, aristocracy is defined by Napa Valley and Cabernet Sauvignon. And for wine families, it's Mondavi. I'm Gloria Marodi-Frazee, Director of Education for Wine Spectator, and joining me today to talk about Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon are Michael Mondavi and his son Rob.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You founded the winery in 2004, and you've been in the wine business at Robert Mondavi Winery for many, many years before that. Mm-hmm. How was it different making your own wine in your own winery?
It was deja vu, because when we started Robert Mondavi in 1966, there were 3 employees, my father, myself, and one other. If you wanted anything done, you had to do it. And it was neat because you had to wear each of the different hats, from vineyard to winery to wash the barrels, to select the barrels, to make the blends. And as we grew, I went away from what I loved, the winemaking, to management. And now it's fun. I'm back in winemaking, and particularly with my son and daughter. This is our Cabernet Sauvignon from our Atlas Peak vineyard. It's the M by Michael Mondavi Cabernet Sauvignon. And Rob and I, together with a wonderful guy by the name of Tony Coltrane, worked together on this wine. And it is my pride and joy.
I can certainly see why. What about this Cabernet Sauvignon to you says Napa Valley?
Well, I think it's the structure. I grew up loving the great older wines of Napa Valley, but also the wonderful wines of Bordeaux. And I found that the classic, more traditional Napa Valley Cabernets with less alcohol, a nice balance, and a very good structure were those that I really loved. I also found that hillside vineyards gave you more layers of flavor, more structure and backbone in the wine. And so in the mid-'80s, I wanted to find some hillside lands that I could potentially plant for a vineyard. And in 1989, planted a vineyard to Cabernet Sauvignon up in Atlas Peak. And so we slowly developed the vineyard, and that is what we're enjoying today.
The color is gorgeous. It's inky dark. It's really beautiful.
Well, the berries are tiny Cabernet. You look at the valley floor, they're much larger, about the size of your ring finger or middle fingernail. And the grapes up on the hillside are smaller, more concentration of flavor, more extraction from the skins, and give you that wonderful richness, the elegance of the wine.
And what we strive to do is have a level of maturity in the vineyards, which is predicated by the science part of it, which is always nice. But then for the final picking, it absolutely has to be done by flavor and walking the vines in order to understand what you're going to have in the glass later. And where it's really interesting to see Dad bring his M by Michael Mondavi to life is to find a way to embrace and respect, his past and training with Chelichev and his father, and to have a signature of modern Napa Valley winemaking with beautiful ripeness and elegance.
When you marry the generations, you get the best of both. And it's not just one generation saying this is the style of wine I like. There's idea exchange, there's debate, discussion.
You're both obviously opinionated. You know your wines. How do you figure out who makes the decision?
For M by Michael Mondavi, that's easy. That's his decision. It's his wine. He's our lead winemaker. And my position, and Tony Coltrane, who's a dear friend and mentor that we work with as well, our job is to support Michael and to figure out what it takes with the fermentation times, temperatures, and to create recommendations for him based on the harvest. Where I think it's the most spectacular to work with Dad on this is the walking of the vineyards and tasting the fruit and deciding where that optimal ripeness is. And so this wine is so personal to him because it starts right there with him deciding based on flavor profile where we pick, and then discussing whether it be yeast strains or time and temperature or extended maceration or not to get to the wine he wants. And so when you ask, is there any question? No, there's no question. This is his wine and he's in the driver's seat.
But realistically, Mother Nature's the winemaker.
She's in the driver's seat.
The soil, the rootstock, the budwood, and the climate that year are the genetic parents of the wine. We harvest the berries, so we're wine growers. We're the babysitter, we're the mentor, we're the teacher.
What's one of the more important lessons you'd learned from your dad?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
That's why you were singing Red, Red Wine earlier.
and also innovation. From 1966 to the mid-70s, we were known as the test tube winery in California and in Napa. And if it weren't for that innovation, we wouldn't have done what we did qualitatively, and we wouldn't have been able to really produce and sell the wonderful wines we did. And I think it's that innovation, constantly having a young mind and always wanting to learn. There's always a better way to do something. I would not have thought of putting the Petit Verdot in this blend to pick up the aromatics, to add another degree of complexity. And when Rob suggested, I said, okay, fine, we'll try it. And wow, it's great. So it's that constant testing the edge of the envelope. And just because you've done it in the past and it worked, don't think it's going to work in the future. Try something better.
One of the things that I find surprising about this wine, very enjoyable, is that it's a brand new baby Cabernet Sauvignon. It's just being released as we're drinking it right now. Yet it's very approachable. It's enjoyable. It's not massively tannic.
That is, to me, one of the major challenges in producing a great, great Cabernet. Making a wine that can be enjoyable and invite you back into the glass when it's young and continue to mature and be equally enjoyable over the next 20 to 30 years, to me, is the objective of this wine.
How has the business of wine changed since the first time around?
The first time around,
in the 60s,
when I went to the best wine shop in Silicon Valley and presented our Chardonnay, he took me to the California section and showed me 4 Chardonnays, Paul Masson, Almaden, Charles Krug, and Martin Ray, and said, I don't need a 5th Chardonnay. The consumers were a minimum of 50 to 60 years of age. That's almost gone upside down today. Thank goodness the young people today have been discovering great food, great wine, better lifestyle, and it's exciting because they're going to help teach us and the future generations how to make even better wine.